we have to address an issue that has been popping up ever since WrestleMania, and it keeps building and it keeps building. Of course, I'm talking about the Uncle Howdy teases, because it was a couple of QR codes ago. I can't remember exactly which one, but there was a couple of QR codes ago where we saw the date 5/25/24. When is that date? This Saturday, King and Queen of the Ring. And if I'm not mistaken, it's also Bo Dallas's birthday. So,
I believe so, yeah.
We have, you believe so? Okay, cool. We've hinted at this. I think it was last week that we hinted, maybe it was the week before that we hinted at this. And you're pretty vocal about not wanting it to happen this weekend. But Andy, like, we had the 55-minute Twitch stream this past week, which unpacked a whole lot of stuff. Commentary is now mentioning these QR codes for the first time ever. Andy, you got to think, if it's not this Saturday, man, we're getting close to something, or they wouldn't start talking about it as much as they have.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in the camp now of, it's like 99% chance he probably shows up Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think probably the Wyatt 6 show up with him. I think the whole faction is there. I think we get a glimpse of everybody. If it's not then I think we really start to maybe not get the entire faction, but the Raw after. We start to see teases, or we start to see the appearance of a Dexter Loomis or a Rowan or somebody like that. And then we start to build to that at some point as well. But yeah, listen, that Twitch stream on Thursday was the wildest thing I have seen WWE do in a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
And I was fully expecting it to be like a 15 to 20 minute thing at the most.
Yeah.
It was basically an hour long.
Yep.
And it was creepy. It was entertaining. I mean, it was absolutely amazing what they were able to do in that hour. So I'll say this, I was excited about it like the last couple of weeks, but the past week with the QR codes and the Twitch stream and everything that's kind of been building, I am very excited to see. I'm very optimistic to see what happens with the Wyatt 6 faction and the Uncle Howdy faction, because I think there's a chance that Uncle Howdy is not necessarily the leader of the group. I think there's a chance Alexa Bliss is the leader of it as Sister Abigail, and I think all these parts are playing into that as well. But whatever they've got, I'm very, very excited to see where it goes.
Lots to unpack here. I think you're right. If Alexa is sort of playing the role as Sister Abigail, excuse me, it seemed like even when Bray was running rampant, even in the early days of Bray Wyatt, it was like he sort of went by the path of Sister Abigail anyway, without really saying it. It was like Sister Abigail was this being that not necessarily controlled him, but he relied on Sister. Guided him. Yeah. Relied on Sister Abigail a whole lot. So I think that makes sense if that is to happen, because not only does that make Alexa Sister Abigail, but her close tie-in to Bray when Bray was on screen, I guess as the Fiend. It wasn't the last time, but as the Fiend, her close tie-ins with him and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of Bray, Corey Graves mentioned it on commentary. He said, we know what happened last time we saw these QR codes. So I think we're in for it, man. I think you said it. The Twitch stream was wild. If you have not been keeping up with this like I have, I'm not saying that I've been ignoring it, but I don't dive into it as much as Andy does. Sam Roberts did a fantastic podcast this past, I think it was this past Friday is when it dropped, of just laying the whole thing out and explaining it to you, going through the Twitch stream and all that. Go back and listen to Sam Roberts' podcast. That'll really get you caught up. That's what I did. Really get you caught up on what's happening, get you interested in it. Here's what I'll say about this. I think you're spot on. By if they all 6 don't show up this Saturday, we start seeing one by one. But what I don't want to happen, Sam Roberts brought this up on his podcast on Monday. I do not want them to feud with Cody Rhodes. No. Please, no. For the love of everything that is good. I know that Cody is the ultimate babyface, and you want this to be diabolical, evil, and all that, so you're pitting the biggest evil against the biggest babyface. But please, for the love of everything that's good, do not do this to Cody Rhodes.
No, I think, honestly, the first thing that kind of comes to mind as a potential target for the Wyatt Six is Braun Strowman.
Absolutely.
I think that kind of writes itself. But if you don't want to do a big guy right away, you want to do a baby face. I wouldn't do Cody. I also wouldn't do Jay.
No.
I mean, you could do like a Ricochet if you wanted to, but it looks like Ricochet got his feud tonight, which I'm very excited about that. But I don't know who else. I mean, you could always go after LA Knight. We're talking about Raw. They could be on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And we could revisit Bray's first feud back by going after LA Knight. I don't know. That's and this sounds horrible, but that was always the thing with Bray too, is the character. I was always so fascinated by the backstory and the character of Bray.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the fact that I was excited about who the people he was feuding with and the stories he was going to tell. I was just fascinated by the Bray Wyatt character. I feel like the same's kind of true about the Wyatt Sixes. I'm very fascinated by the faction. I don't know how fascinated I'll be by the feuds themselves that they're going to go into potentially.
Well, it's almost like, I know this is the wrestling business, but it's also the sports entertainment business. So as you're going through that, the first thought that comes to my mind is like, I would almost rather see them not wrestle at all. Yeah, I would rather see them tell a story, be creepy, like invade on people and be in a feud with people, but never actually get in the ring with the bell and win or lose and any of that. Just tell a story and just kind of be there
until you need it to, like until the feud called for it. Like an example, like the Bray Wyatt Daniel Bryan story when Daniel Bryan joined the Wyatt family and everything like that. Like that was, you needed to have Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan go at it at some point. Mm-hmm. That made total sense. I think with this group. Oh,
that could be interesting. Hold that thought real quick. I think that could be interesting if you look at it from that way. Maybe the Wyatt, because I was sitting here thinking about the Wyatt Six, and we've heard rumors of Alexa and Joe Gacy and blah, 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 whatever. I think it would be really interesting if the only people that we knew in the group was Uncle Howdy, Alexa, and maybe let's just say Eric Rowan, because that makes the most sense. That's the only three that we get. And then they recruit the other three. And then the other three, like people that are currently on TV. And then those three are the ones that actually do the wrestling. And the rest of them are just like hands off, puppet masters or whatever. I think that could be an interesting way to go.
Yeah. And then the only way they get to, your Uncle Howdys and your Rowans and things is by going through the Wyatt Six, and then they have to finally get into the ring with Uncle Howdy or whatever the case is. I think something like that's very interesting. And I think you can tell some very fascinating stories like that. I will say, I think it's pointing, the rumored names of like Joe Gacy. I think Joe Gacy would be a fantastic choice to this because I'm just fascinated by the Joe Gacy character anyway.
Sure.
I think the Twitch stream showed very heavily of Dexter Loomis because the only way he communicated was by drawing. And that's all we saw in that entire Twitch stream was the writings and the drawings and things like that. So I think it's pointing to him
that's great point.
Kind of heavily as well. So, and plus I saw a picture of him where he's like grown a beard and long hair now and everything else. So I think he's kind of playing into that role. I don't know. I'll say this: the storytelling I'm very, very excited about. When it comes to in-ring work, I'm like the match. It's one of the few times in wrestling where the story and the feuds are great. I don't necessarily care about the wrestling match at the end. And that was kind of the same way with Bray.
Because, like I said, I think it was last week. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's still Bo Dallas. Well, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just
right, and it's difficult with that kind of character to. The thing with the Fiend was he should go out there and just kill whoever's in the ring with because he's a monster. Like he's an actual horror monster. He should go out there and kill them. And if Finn Balor gets a little offense in and then like beats him, it's like, you take away that entire mystique around him as well. So it's a very, very difficult thing to handle, which makes the Undertaker character such a wild success, because he could have easily fallen into this trap, but didn't. So I'm very curious to see what takes place with the Uncle Howdy family.
We will have to see. We don't know. We'll have to see, man. I'm excited to see what they do with it. Again, let's tell some fun stories. It seems like that's what they're doing.